Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Week 12 Cashing Points live stream brought to you not in our typical time window, but on a Friday. The lovely and wonderful John Proctor is unfortunately not going to be joining us today. He tested positive with COVID and he's suffering some symptoms. So no flu game type live stream performance from him. He said, nausea really bad, headache really bad, can't look at any screens for longer than 5 to 10 minutes. I was like, listen, man, that's just great TV. You got to come on, you got to power through. But no, we did the right thing. We gave him the week off. So he's not going to be joining us, but I'm very happy and proud to introduce finally Wes Huber to the live stream. This is a guy you've heard me hype up countless number of times, our go-to resident wide receiver, pass coverage expert. This is a genius film expert, amazing analysis on statistical evidence. He was kept locked in the basement at PFF for years and years and years. And all he did all day was just grind tape, watch NFL athletes, watch wide receivers, break down what type of routes they were running, what kind of coverage it was against. I'm going to grade this guy X. I'm going to deem this route a curl route. I'm going to, 3.7 yards of separation, all that, super advanced stuff. And now we have him working for us at PFF. And, it's such a joy to be able to read his articles every week. I learned so much, and he's doing great work. And I'm really excited to see him, flex his muscle today on the live stream. I will just say, so this live stream is coming out free and live. It's our free week. This also, however, unfortunately, might be our worst, live stream to date. It's just the Thanksgiving slate of games, or the Thanksgiving week, is always the most difficult week for fantasy analysts. You're basically cramming 2 weeks into 1 week, so it's really tough. I had, my slate breakdown article, I steal from other articles. So like I do my research for XFP, I do it for Start Sit, I do it for values, and then I just steal bits and pieces. So it's really just, and then I do more and more research all Friday. I'm working nonstop, and it's really just, 4 full days of research going into one article. And it's the same thing for this show, but we're a little behind because we spent so much time on the Thanksgiving slate of games. Hope you played all the guys who went off. I'm also dealing with some weird, stomach thing. I threw up yesterday morning. I don't know why, it just happens. We're all working crazy here. I hope you guys appreciate it. But yeah, man. And on top of all that, there's so much late news we're waiting on. It's one of those weeks where like you probably can't start building lineups until Sunday morning. We're just waiting on so much news. So that's another issue. The other one is there's few glaring values. So in the DFS supermodel, the 25th guy typically offers like $380 in salary relief. And this week it's like $33, and like $385 would be like the 12th best value. So it's really just like a tough week overall, but we're going to try and do our best. We got Wes bringing the goods. We got Graham. A lot of people wondered if I had McDonald's for Thanksgiving for the 4th year in a row. I had boxed macaroni and cheese and bacon. That's what I just made. And
that is a meal of champions there, dude. That is a meal of champions.
What'd you have, Graham?
I made tacos, man.
Nice.
So Ash visited some friends up north. So I had the house to myself yesterday because I was doing the live stream with Joe and Wes yesterday morning. Had to do some work last night and obviously this morning too. So I didn't get to enjoy much of Thanksgiving either, unfortunately. But tacos came out great, man. Had some soft shell, had some hard shell. It was really good.
Wes, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm enjoying some college football today, and the news coming out. It's just, it's left and right. We're getting all kinds of stuff. And NFL news, I should say. And so, I've been trying to write the bottom line today, and then I'm like, I get this news report and I'm like, well, now I need to go back and rewrite that, and so, that's taking longer. And then, you guys are like, hey, why don't you come on the live stream for Johnny? I'm Sure. Yeah. All right. We'll just push that back a little bit further.
So that's another thing you're doing for us is you're doing college football DFS, and you are absolutely crushing it this year. You're just printing money. So thank you so much for that. I don't know how you felt about my introduction for you, but do you want to give yourself an introduction, tell the people at home what you used to do at PFF and what you're doing for us now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I can follow up that intro. Honestly, you just, I think you're overselling me, but, you've been you've, yeah,
The voice of God, Ben just came on and said, well, he has a Darth Vader doll in the background. So that alone makes him qualified.
It's actually
That's
definitely
what
worth extra, definitely extra points. That's for sure.
well, one of these days I'm going to go around and straighten it
Is
up
that Bill
better.
Belichick?
It's in no way in any shape for me to show you the rest, but there's a lot more than Darth Vader behind me.
I'll have to get my Darth Vader. I got a little Darth Vader guy with a lightsaber. We'll have to get him in here too. Do a full on Star Wars show. Any Baby Yoda stuff?
No, I don't. I've looked. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and
Yeah,
I'm sure she would love that. I have looked around, but this stuff is just kind of cheap right now. I'm looking for something good.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Wes, again, thanks so much for coming to fill in for Johnny. And I think we've dispensed with the Star Wars talk. Let's get into this slate. And man, I mean, it is like this is the messiest slate of the year. Every injury report is pretty filled, and basically no games are clean right now. We should mention off the top, Pittsburgh and Baltimore has been moved to Tuesday, so that game is no longer on the main slate. The NFL is just continuing just to like kick the can down the road and not really face any more scheduling issues. So that game is Tuesday now.
Wait, is that off the main slate on DraftKings? Because I'm on DraftKings right now and it's still showing it to be on a main slate, but
they'll probably take it off. It takes them a couple hours to kind of update everything.
Yeah,
but
I still
I
hate Sunday. So
I hate to cut you guys off, but Joe just sent me a link to get to this for this PS5. I click on it and it's sold out instantly.
Yeah, I saw that. I had the same notification, Wes, and the exact same thing happened to me. Wes is trying desperately to buy his sons a PS5 for Christmas. It's all they want. And so for the past 2 weeks, me and him together have been trying to buy a PS5, and it's like, oh, they're like 500 PS5s now on sale at Walmart. Try and like the second I click on it, it's sold out. It's crazy.
I can't even get to it says add to cart. I can't even get to the cart.
Dude, it's the bots. They're out in force.
Can you sell it on eBay for $2,000?
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure Joe said yesterday he thinks, because he got one. He said he thinks that some FedEx guy just stole it, like it was supposed to be in transit.
That was his first one, and then he got another one. He just sat there refreshing, and he was able to get another one for his nephew. I tried to buy it from him, but he refused. But he's helping me. He's trying to help me find it.
PS5s are now more valuable than toilet paper, which was gold in March and April.
No joke. Sorry, tangent. I'm just,
Nah, dude.
Background drama.
I've already given up on the PS5. I'm just gonna wait till next year and get one then. There's also like no games for it yet.
Yeah. Well, Miles Morales. My kids are dying to play Miles Morales.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Baltimore, Pittsburgh, by the way, just got moved. I just refreshed DraftKings and now it's off the main slate.
It's off now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we had this happen. I can't remember what game it was. I think it was a Bills game. They moved off Sunday to Tuesday, and there's no reason. They can't tie up people's money for like 3 days.
Yeah, well, and we weren't going to have Lamar Jackson, so I think maybe it's better just to move it further out. And I don't know if he'll be able to clear. Did he actually test positive, or was it tracing?
I think I don't know. That's the thing is we really don't know unless they come out and say. Could be tracing.
Hopefully.
Man, they've had 12 guys test positive, so it's probably likely that he got it. But we'll just have to see. DraftKings also can't give up the opportunity to rake another showdown slate. But let's get started here. Raiders Falcons off the top. Pretty good game from an overall perspective, except we have just a ton of injuries. Julio did not practice today. Todd Gurley's already been ruled out. He's dust anyway. They're going to play Brian Hill and Ito Smith. I think Brian Hill will probably be the 1A pretty clearly. Hayden Hurst is banged up, did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, but got back today with a limited practice. He's going to play, but he's probably going to be really limited. And same with Julio if he plays. Wes, I'll go to you first. I mean, we've seen just massive splits with.
Wait, what about Calvin? Wait, Calvin Ridley's out?
No, Ridley's going to play.
Yeah, they're just limiting his reps.
Yeah, Ridley's going to play.
Yeah, but Julio's probably
out.
Yeah.
I would think. But yeah, I'll go to you, Wes. I mean, we've seen big splits for Matt Ryan this year when Julio's out. I mean, he's finishes the QB 27, the QB 23, QB 25, and QB 27 in the 4 games that Julio has either missed completely or left. Really, I guess the only guy on this Falcons side we have to be interested in is Ridley. What's your take on the matchup here? Because I mean, the Raiders are definitely not a secondary to be afraid of.
No, well, with Julio, absolutely. I mean, I think they could do very well in that matchup. But like you said, I think he's averaging 11 points or less without Julio this year, or when he's doing his in and out thing. So and it hasn't seemed to affect, like you said, Ridley. So I think you can still consider Ridley in a run back option if you want to stack the Raiders. But there's some nice matchups for on the other side for the Raiders, but I'm pretty much avoiding everyone else on the Falcons. I just don't see the reason to risk the spot in your lineup at all.
Yeah, Ridley's really the only guy in play for me too. Scott, on the Raiders side, man, this is just an awesome spot for Darren Waller. I mean, Travis Kelce is the number 1 tight end on every single slate, and I think he's appropriately priced at $7K, but Darren Waller isn't. He's seeing, wide receiver number 1 volume, has 83 targets on the year. Next closest Raiders receiver is Hunter Renfrow with like 41. He's seen a 20% target share in 9 of his 10 games, and now he gets this Falcons defense that's just getting absolutely shredded against tight end. He's the best tight end play on the slate, right?
Yeah, I think so. I actually do think Travis Kelce is a slight value. If you look at the production he's putting up, it's easy mid to high end wide receiver 1 production, and he's kind of priced like a low end wide receiver 1. But yeah, Darren Waller, it's just they're a slot funnel pass attack, and Atlanta is the worst pass defense in football, and they're a tight end funnel offense, and Atlanta's the worst pass defense in football and a tight end funnel defense, the most egregious tight end funnel defense. By my numbers, they're giving up like 7.5 fantasy points per game over expectation. So like opposing tight ends are outscoring their per game average by like 7.5 fantasy points per game, just like the ultimate spot. And it just makes all the sense in the world. I do think we need to talk a little bit about Nelson Agholor and Henry Ruggs. Agreed. Aguilar's looking like, he's not super consistent, but he's looking like who they drafted Henry Ruggs to be. Meanwhile, Henry Ruggs is MIA. Atlanta's also giving up the most fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers on deep passes. They're just super vulnerable deep. That's Henry Ruggs, but it's also been like how they've used Nelson Agholor in recent weeks. And I think Derek Carr could be chalk. The stack, as we just said, is obvious with Waller, and then you could dub stack it. I do want to hear Wes's thoughts on Nelson Agholor in a second because I know he wrote him up. But Carr has had the 4th most difficult QB schedule to date. Production, mid QB2. But this is, the dream matchup where, again, it's like the same thing against tight ends. They're giving up like 9 fantasy points per game over expectation to opposing quarterbacks, by far the most. They rank dead last in opposing passer rating, fantasy points allowed per pass attempt. Derek Carr, by the way, I thought looked elite last week. I'm not a Derek Carr truther. He looked elite. He was PFF's highest graded passer of any QB in any week this season, and he just looked awesome. So Wes, what are your thoughts on Nelson Agholor and some of the other guys we just brought up?
Yeah, he's doing really well for them, and it's shocking to see that since Philly just gave up on him, stuck a fork in him, and just let him go do whatever. So it's surprising, and he's been really good against cover 3, and the reason that is so valuable to the Raiders is that is also something that Derek Carr specializes in. He loves to take advantage of cover three. So them in combination have been pretty good. And one of the things that I think a pattern that we're seeing with Aguilar is when Josh Jacobs isn't having the same type of production, or his top level of production, we're seeing him step forward and kind of take on some of that offensive role. But no doubt having Waller in the attack is definitely pulling that attention away from Aguilar to get those targets. And another guy that I think is going to do well is Hunter Renfrow. He's one of the top. I think he's number 17. Let's see, 17 or 22. No, I'm sorry, 31 in fantasy points per route against cover one. So we'll see three coverages essentially from the Falcons: cover one, cover two, cover three. Look for Aguilar to do the best in the cover three with the one deep safety. But Renfrow, he's a guy that is he's lethal against man coverage. So it'll be kind of interesting to see who Atlanta actually plays in the slot, because they moved that Darqueze Dennard out wide last week. So he'll probably be on Aguilar. But yeah, I'll be interested to see who's actually covering Renfrow, because Waller just creates so many mismatches that they've got to kind of move things around to contain him, or try to.
I will say the concern with Renfrow is he really is kind of like a part-time player.
Yeah.
Just you don't run three wide so often. So he's kind of running, about 70% of the routes Aguilar is.
Yeah, he only plays like third downs too. He's like a super
third and Renfrow, baby.
But Renfrow, exact same target share over the season though. So it really doesn't matter how many routes you run if you're getting the same amount of targets.
True. Yeah, man. I think Derek Carr has been, just like anecdotally, I think Derek Carr might be the most underrated quarterback in the league this year. Dude is just playing out of his mind. He's playing so well under John Gruden. And look, I've never been a huge, the last 3 years I've kind of poo-pooed on Gruden, just kind of thought he was a donkey, but he's proven, I think, everybody wrong. He is coaching his ass off this year, man. He is doing an amazing job with this offense. And look, I mean, they're not even getting anything out of Henry Ruggs. There's something up with Ruggs. Either he dealt with an injury early in the year. He had a knee injury. He might be more banged up than we know, but his development has been super slow. But regardless, I mean, Derek Carr has been amazing. He's top 6 in EPA per dropback, like among the elites with Mahomes and Murray and Wilson. He's a really strong play, and I agree with you, Scott. I think he's going to be chalk. I think he'll be the highest owned quarterback on the slate. Everybody plays quarterbacks against the Falcons, or at least he'll at least be the highest owned cash game quarterback on the slate.
He's super cheap too. He's like the 18th most expensive quarterback on DraftKings, but like if you look at expert consensus rankings, he's like QB7 on the week, so it's just like obvious. I mean, but the thing is, he's Derek Carr, and Matt Ryan's only 200 more. But yeah, the loss of Julio, the slightly tougher matchup, it's close.
Yeah, if Julio does not play, it's gonna really hurt this game from an overall perspective, just because Ryan is so Julio dependent. I mean, Julio, like when Julio's on the field, they average like whatever it is, 0.2 EPA per play when Julio's on the field. When he's off, it's like negative 0.1. That's like, if you run that out over a full game, that's worth like 10, 11 points for every 35, 40 passes. So,
but no Gurley probably helps too.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be wasting 18 plays on Todd 2.0 Gurley, 2.0 yards per carry. But yeah, they won't be able to run the ball very well, no, I don't think, in general.
I should probably mention one other guy for the Falcons, as I don't really know how to pronounce his last name. I know his first name's Olamide.
Olamide Zaccheaus, man.
Zaccheaus, yeah. I think he's somebody that, I mean, he comes in at a low salary, 3,800, 4,600. So we would only need 11 to 13 points to get some floor value out of him. And I know he had that long touchdown a couple weeks ago. So, and he did well when in the spot when Julio was out. So he might not be a bad tourney dart.
Yeah, his snaps, he's played, he's been kind of Julio's direct backup in those 3 games that Julio was banged up or missed. Saw 6, 9, and 4 targets. Pretty much played every snap too, especially in that last game. They've been doing kind of weird shit with their receivers though. They'll play Christian Blake a little bit too.
Yeah, disappointing.
Yeah. Okay, Chargers Bills, guys. This is another messy game from an injury perspective. Off the top, Anthony Lynn said Austin Eckler has a chance to play. I kind of don't believe him. I think we're probably a week away from seeing Eckler, but getting Eckler in some sort of like limited role would be awesome because this game is just amazing from a number of angles. A few other notes on the Chargers side. Kalen Ballage is questionable. I think he's going to play, though. He's just, fighting through a few injuries. No Casey Hayward or Melvin Ingram on the Chargers side of the defense. So, Stephon
Chris
Diggs.
Harris Jr., is he back, though?
He's questionable.
Yeah, he's questionable. So we'll see on
What's
Harris.
interesting is Lynn last week was like, nah, I don't really think Harris is going to play. And this week he's like, Eckler and Harris, I don't know. We'll see. So, at least a little bit more. Maybe he's more honest than like a Pete Carroll, but
yeah.
They're going to need him with Casey Hayward out, though.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So what happens if Hayward's out? Are they going to kick Harris outside, or is he going to stick in the slot on Beasley?
Actually, yeah. I think Chris Harris isn't even on the injury report. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
He was close to playing last week.
Yeah, I don't.
The vibe I got from Lynn was like, oh, we could play him if we want, but we're going to give him another week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just activated him today, so he's probably going to play.
I would say he's going to be Casey Hayward's direct replacement, and they'll keep Tavon Campbell in the slot because that's they traded away Desmond King, and they must have some faith in Campbell because they're rolling him out there, and they felt good enough about him to get rid of King, who I'm pretty high on. I was blown away that they moved him. There must have been some character issues going on.
Yeah. So Chargers secondary, really their defense in general has just been trash all year. No Derwin James. They did get Bosa back a few weeks ago off the concussion, but really kind of hasn't mattered. So now they're going to be down another edge rusher. And then on the Bills side, John Brown is out. So Stephon Diggs is, man, Scott, this year when Brown has been out of the lineup, Josh Allen has pretty big splits. I think a little bit of that has just been maybe the matchups. He had a good game against the Jets, just did not score any touchdowns. But let's start with Stephon Diggs because, no John Brown, no Casey Hayward. Chargers defense is terrible. I think Wes wrote up both Keenan and Diggs, but I did want to focus on the quarterbacks just a bit. Yeah. So I do think with this slate, what you're going to see is a lot of KC Tampa Bay game stacks. I think Atlanta, Las Vegas comes in right above that, but I think Chargers, Bills game stacks isn't too far behind. And so what do I say every time we bring up Josh Allen? I say he's long been the most matchup sensitive quarterback in fantasy. I mean, he dropped 36 fantasy points, 39 DK in week 9, which was his softest matchup of the season. Week 10 was soft. They've totally abandoned the run in those 2 games. They could do it again this week. Los Angeles represents his 3rd softest matchup of the season by schedule adjusted fantasy points per game allowed. And so it's the 2nd highest implied point total of the slate, 2nd highest over under of the slate. And then what do I say every time I talk about Justin Herbert? I say Justin Herbert has only ever looked like the good Josh Allen. And he's had the 3rd toughest QB schedule to date. He's hit 21.5 fantasy points in 7 of 8 career starts since week 4. He's above Patrick Mahomes. He ranks 2nd behind only Kyler Murray in fantasy points per game. He's cheaper than Mahomes. Buffalo, giving up a lot of fantasy points, a surprising amount. I think the 2nd most DraftKings fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. A lot of that on the ground. We know Herbert is pretty mobile. They've totally taken the training wheels off, about 42 pass attempts per game since week 3. Getting Austin Eckler back, if he's back, ideally that's less runs, more short dump off passes as an extension of the running game, which means free fantasy points, free, cheap, and easy fantasy points for Herbert. So I like those guys too, but I'll let Wes talk about the stacking options.
Yeah, I'm actually writing up Josh Allen in bottom line right now. And I do want to just add, he's not been lights out against cover 3, which is what the Chargers play the most cover 3 in the league. but he's been really accurate. He's completing something like close to 80% of targeted passes against cover three this season, and I think 75 or 70% over the last 2 years. And then we got with Herbert, and the thing I would like to say about him, he's everything that the Dolphins want Tua to be. He's
Yeah.
aggressive, and he looks for his playmakers, and that's what they want Tua to do. And that's why he was sat last week. So hopefully
Dude,
he can be a little more aggressive.
Herbert has a howitzer for an arm. That
Yeah.
dude has a straight cannon. What was up? What was up with like the way Oregon used him? Like he was just basically used as like a spread screen based quarterback, and they didn't let him chuck it. I think everybody kind of missed on Herbert just because we never really saw this, this kind of ceiling from him just based on his, what we saw from him out of Oregon.
It was the overriding formation they used. They played from a pistol, and they had a lot of they have a lot of gimmicky plays off of their run fakes. And he was always good. It was just that they didn't use him in an NFL style offense. When
Yeah.
when they did draft him, they did try to actually put some pistol into the offense prior to the season, but then they scrapped it, of course, when they saw how good he was. I think the Chargers were shocked how good he is. To be honest, I don't think it was something where they saw that he was going to be. I think they hesitated even to fully commit to him prior to the draft.
Yeah.
But I they're looking like geniuses right now. But yeah, go ahead.
Well,
I'm sorry.
no, Anthony Lynn said Tyrod is a starter for the whole year, and it literally took them stabbing him in the chest to get them to start Herbert. Yeah.
What if that trainer just knew? Like he just watched him light it up in practice. He's like, my coach is a donkey. I love this team. I'm sorry, Tyrod.
Dude, it's so funny. I mean, it's crazy that we might have not seen Herbert until maybe this point, until just because they tried to stab Tyrod. It's
we need to ask our doctors on staff, but I saw something on Twitter where this is actually pretty common when they're given these pain-killing injections, that it's common to accidentally poke through a lung.
Ugh, could not imagine.
No,
could not
man.
imagine. It's like Drew Brees, trying to play through freaking broken ribs and
what does he have? 11 broken ribs?
Yeah, something like that.
Good Lord.
Yeah, this game I think we'll see Allen and Herbert come in as probably the two highest owned quarterbacks, or at least among the top four, with Carr and Mahomes. Like you mentioned, Scott, this game, the Falcons game, and then we'll get to the Chiefs game, will be the highest owned on the slate. But there's just a lot of ways to go. On the Bills side, it's pretty defined now with no John Brown. Stephon Diggs is, I think, in line to be the wide receiver one on the slate. He's been smashing every single week, one of the only receivers to have 10 or more points in every single game so far. I kind of like Gabriel Davis at 3K on the Bills side. He's going to play every single snap. He ran a route on 95 of Allen's 96 dropbacks. He's min priced on DraftKings. There's just, I'm writing this game up for contrarian plays this afternoon, but there's just a lot of like ancillary pieces in this game that are going to be lower owned. And I think Hunter Henry is another good one. Wes, will Tre'Davious White travel with Mike Williams on the outside?
No. He's not a shadow guy.
Yeah.
They've dabbled with that in the past, but I think he's more comfortable sticking to that left side, and they feel confident enough in Levi Wallace to not consider that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I knew Trey was sticking. I know he's been sticking to his side more. Great spot for Keenan Allen, though. I mean, every spot is a good spot for Keenan Allen. I mean, dude's pretty much uncoverable, seeing insane volume, 30% target share in basically every single game. Since Herbert has been the quarterback outside of the one game where he got hurt, really, I mean, Allen's just a strong play.
And let's also consider that includes the week 5 when Allen left after a few snaps and only saw a 6% target share. So that's killing that already leading the NFL average, that target share average.
I mean, it's ridiculous. He's like basically 90% of what Michael Thomas was last year. It's wild. Another great chance for him to hit a ceiling in this game. This game's going to be way up in pace too. Both the Chargers and the Bills are top 12 in pace, top 12 in plays. Chargers last 7 games have all hit point totals of 50 or more. I think my favorite non-Diggs or Allen pass catcher in this game, though, is Hunter Henry. He's only 4,800. Bills have really regressed against tight ends this year. They're giving up the most receptions, most yards per game to tight ends. What's up with that? Like, why have the Bills regressed so badly against tight ends this season?
Well, they went out and got AJ Klein. He was injured early in the season. He plays on that strong side, which is opposite the tight end. So he's gonna be responsible for those coverage snaps. But he just hasn't come through, man. I don't know if he's got lingering injuries or what, but he just hasn't been the player the Bills thought he was going to be coming in. Because I remember back when I was at PFF, he graded well for PFF in coverage. So and that's why they acquired him.
Yeah. I was wondering if it was something based in their scheme, because the last 2 seasons they've been the worst matchup possible for a tight end back in 2018 and 2019. So good spot for Hunter Henry here. He's actually second behind Rob Gronkowski in end zone targets, and Gronk has the extra game played. So I think Henry, outside of Waller and Kelsey, is a cut above.
I'm sure Hawkinson leads, by the way. I'm sure that's not a correct stat.
Man, how good has Hawkinson been this year? He's really taken a step forward his sophomore.
Yeah, Hawkinson has been awesome.
Hey, I do want to point out, as far as snaps this season, Cole Beasley is leading the team with over 3.0 yards per out run. So he didn't do anything against the Seahawks, though. I wrote him up that week and he didn't come through, but he has been doing well against cover 3 this year. So I would like to see him come out and do something. He's been great for Buffalo this year.
Yeah, Beasley, man, like nobody ever plays Beasley. He's 5,500 on DraftKings, a little overpriced, but no one ever plays.
They're a slot funnel with Chris Harris out pretty much. Yeah. So if Harris is on the outside, that's a good spot for him.
Yeah.
And 13 targets, 11 catches, 109 yards a score last week. But he's super boomer bust.
Yeah, he also trashed the Jets. When John Brown missed, he had 11 for 112, and everybody's killing the Jets. But Scott, real quick, where are you getting are you getting your end zone targets from SIS or PFF? Because PFF has it as Henry at 9 end zone targets, I believe. You seen something different?
I get mine from NFL.com.
Yeah, okay. So you should trust our stuff, which is on expected fantasy points at fantasypoints.com. The tool.
I checked that too. I think Henry's number 1 in that too.
Oh, wow. You're right. He is. Yeah. He's averaging 1 end zone target per game. Hawkinson 0.9. Wow. So Henry must have had like 2 or 3 last week.
Yeah. He had 1. He had a touchdown overturned too a couple weeks ago on an end zone target. Don't tell me I have my stats wrong, Scott. Better come correct.
You own me. I didn't come correct. So I think the next game on our slate that we're going to talk about is a game with good pace, but we are not. Yeah. So he had 4 last week. So he had 4. Hawkinson was leading by a mile, and he had 4 last week. He had 1 the week before that, 1 the week before that, 0, 1, 1. So yeah, definitely some pretty good end zone volume. Before that was like Donald Parham, which was like crazy. It's like
which has been good. Yeah. He's actually been good.
Donald Parham's a good player, man. He was really good for XFL.
Yeah. So the next
Hey,
game,
before we move on, can I ask you guys a quick question? How excited are you for Austin Eckler's return in this offense with these replacement level running backs doing so much? I mean, he's going to be huge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he really opens up the offense too to be, what they want. Before his injury, he was averaging 20.0 fantasy points per game, better volume than he was seeing last year with Melvin Gordon. And remember when Melvin Gordon was out, he was a league winner, like only keeping pace with Christian McCaffrey. What I was going to say was like, our pace is bad. Like some of these games have bad paces. Our pace right now is kind of slow. We should probably try and pick it up a little bit. But I mean, I love Eckler if he plays, and he said on Twitch he's definitely going to play. The matchup's good, and he's just severely mispriced. He's the 15th most expensive running back on FanDuel, 12th most on, or 15th most on DraftKings, 12th most on FanDuel. So clear value, like one of the best plays of the position for sure.
Yeah, if we get Eckler, it's going to make this game even hotter. But we are running slow here, so let's get to Giants.
I have to go to the bathroom too, so you guys are on your own.
For sure. Giants Bengals. This game is pretty straightforward, so we'll get through it pretty quickly here, Wes. Might not even need Scott for this. I'm just joking. Gio is really the only injury note in this game. He's cleared protocol. It looks like he's going to play. Bengals are going to go with Brandon Allen over Ryan Finley. You and I talked about this yesterday on the live stream with Joe. What have you seen from Brandon Allen just in like his 3 starts last year with the Broncos?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot there. Not very much. There was a reason. I know the first game he played, the Broncos actually dabbled with the idea of possibly keeping him in the starting role with lockout, but then then they saw more snaps from him, and it was not pretty, and they made a quick decision to pull the plug on that.
Yeah. I mean, he did he kept Sutton alive a little bit, so I'm just hoping that we keep that he keeps Higgins or Boyd alive. He'll keep one of these dudes afloat. But
yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that he's a big upgrade in my opinion over Ryan Finley. Ryan Finley his pocket awareness is, I mean, it's beyond replacement level. It's outrageously bad. He holds the ball too long. He hesitates when he's going through his reads. It's really
Daniel Jones?
Bad. We're actually on this game, so yeah.
Here's
very
my
well
thing.
could
So
be.
I just come. Wait, who were you talking about?
We were talking about Ryan Finley and Brandon Allen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually want to hear your tape-based opinion on Daniel Jones because I'm a Giants homer, and I was down on him. I didn't think he was a first-round talent, but he's impressed me. But like, the fumbles are a major issue, but that's something that all the stats say regresses to the mean, and it's easily coachable. It's easily fixable. That's been his biggest issue. And that he really does, like the Danny Dimes nickname is good because he does, make some big time throws. But it also seems like the fumble thing and the sack thing is on him, where he trusts his offensive line way more than he should, and he just gets absolutely blindsided by a hit. So I just want to know what you think of him as a talent. Again, I'm sorry for the pace thing for the DFS guys at home. I just love talking to Wes. Obviously, if we have a chance at a Zach Wilson, we take him just because Zach Wilson's awesome. But what do you think about his long-term prospects as an NFL caliber starting quarterback?
Yeah, I wasn't high on him coming out of Duke. I was a little surprised that he went that early. I know that a lot of the analysts were fine with that, but I didn't think, and I know a lot of people at PFF were against that as well. So it wasn't just my own opinion. But then he came out. He did really well at first. He won a couple of games. He was putting up some numbers, but I'm not going to say it's time to stick a fork in him because it would be nice to see him in the offense with Saquon actually, doing something. But I think it's a little bit of a stretch to say that it's on him. Because in my opinion, the offensive line is there to do one thing, and that's to give their quarterback time to pass the ball. Now, I did just go into Ryan Finley about how he's holding the ball too long, but he's playing behind. He needs to know what's in front of him, and he's playing behind a terrible offensive line. That's the same thing for Daniel Jones. Except he doesn't have those receivers, the targets to get that ball to. I mean, you can snap and throw to Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is up there with not too far behind Keenan Allen with his route running ability, or he doesn't have the speed of a Tyreek Hill, but he's a serious threat. But he can take hot reads if there's there's a blitz coming, or an unexpected stunt takes place. So, but with the Giants, I mean, they don't have those options. They have a deep threat with a dude on the outside, I forget his name right now, but and then of course they're having some attitude issues with Golden Tate. But I do like Sterling Shepard, but he's not a number one receiver. And then Evan Ingram is not the tight end we all want him to be. So I think it's early to stick a fork in Daniel Jones. He does well against man coverage, which that's the most common coverage he's going to see. He still has work to do against some zones, especially cover two, but it's not to the point where we can say he's terrible. But I do think he's going to have to do something over the rest of the season to avoid one of those four quarterbacks that we talked about. Either Lawrence, if he doesn't stay in school to avoid the Jets, Justin Fields, and your guy Zach Wilson, and possibly Trey Lance going in the top 10, and the Giants could take one of those.
So
I'd also like to see Daniel Jones not with Jason Garrett and Joe Judge coaching staffs here. I mean, that's the other part here.
So I guess we're only looking at Wayne Gallman and Giant stacks this week.
Yeah, that's really it, man. I like Gallman quite a bit, actually. Yeah. I mean, he's a good play. I think he's going to be pretty popular. There's not really, like you said, there's really not a whole lot of value on the slate, but I think Gallman's one of the clear-cut running back values. Scored 13 or more fantasy points in every contest that Devonta Freeman has missed. He's seen 60% of the Giants' touches. He's handled 7 of their 9 carries inside of the 10-yard line without Freeman too. Obviously, great spot as well. Bengals' run defense is really bad, and they're not going to be competitive in this game.
I was writing up my GPP plays, and one of the guys I think with Brandon Allen, I think he'll do well enough to keep T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd fed to the point where they can be used. At least in fantasy. I'm hoping. I wouldn't do it this week, but I'm hoping enough in DFS as well. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. Higgins has been awesome. I have him in so many leagues, and I really hope he can keep him alive.
Sterling Shepard's popping as a top value on FanDuel. He's only 5,400, but that's it.
Yeah,
Shepard's been pretty consistent, man. He's seen like 6 or more targets in every game this year.
Slayton probably gets William Jackson, which means he is like the softest CB matchup too, I guess, unless Wes disagrees.
He won't shadow. I don't know what their deal is. They won't shadow, even with LaShawn Sims on the other side, just giving away fantasy points. So unfortunately, it's going to be a situation where they can move any guy around the formation to get away from him, or to avoid their crazy good free safety.
Yeah. All right, Titans Colts here, guys. Big news in this game is the Colts D line. DeForest Buckner is on the COVID list. He's going to miss this game. Same with Danico Autry, their edge rusher. So the Colts run defense is going to be, man, they're going to be struggling a little bit against Derrick Henry. I think Dalvin Cook once again will be the highest running back on the slate, followed by Henry. And both of those guys have 150-yard, 2 TD upside. I think we'll see another big ceiling game from Henry here. What does the Buckner news mean in general for the Colts run defense, Wes?
Oh, it's really bad, because one of the things that the entire offense is built around the play action, and in order for the Colts to defend Derrick Henry, they need to have the defensive line as their first source of contact. Without DeForest Buckner in there, and you said Danico Autry is out as well.
Yeah, Danico Autry's out. Yeah,
I mean, that is a monumental gap in their defensive line. Darius Leonard can't do both. I mean, they're going to have him running in circles without that defensive line solidified, because if he tries to come up on the play fake and try to play Derrick Henry, they're gonna read that after a couple of plays, and they're gonna be passing. They're gonna see Jonnu Smith wide open, or Anthony Firkser. Firkser has been just a great addition. Or I'm sorry, he's not new, but he's been great for the Titans this year. So I don't think we're gonna see the usual dominant performance from the Colts. I know that they got abused a bit last week against Green Bay. I still think they played well, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be like it was a few weeks ago against Tennessee. You know, and the thing about these matchups that are back to back like this, they favor the offense heavily because they've already seen what the defense is going to throw at them. And I would and you know, Ryan Tannehill, man, he's an elite QB, a football IQ. He's gonna remember everything that they did. I would not be surprised to see the Titans pull off the upset here.
Yeah, me too, man. Darius Leonard's really going to be their only good run defender. Bobby Okereke is out too. He hasn't had
Oh
the
wow,
best
yeah.
season, so they're down basically their top three of their top four run defenders right off the bat. I think for the Titans, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, AJ Brown is a man amongst boys. He's just unbelievable. But in this spot, Scott, you've been talking about this all off season, or not all off season, but all season. That the Colts just shut down wide receiver ones, and really, I guess on the Titans side, man, it's just Henry.
Yeah, what is that, Wes? Because they don't have an amazing cornerback trio, or at least they haven't for a number of years. But by my numbers, they've ranked top 5 in schedule adjusted fantasy points per game allowed to opposing wide receiver ones in each of the last 3 seasons, which makes me just think this is a function of Matt Eberfluss's scheme.
Yeah, you know, you pointed that out to me. I think it was after week 1, you pointed that stat out to me. And you know, I've always been big on Darius Leonard, but yeah, I looked into that and I was blown away. You're exactly right. You know, they've got a lot of good players, but you know, they just got Xavier Rhodes, and I just didn't think it was gonna be as dominant as it is. What it really Eberfluss is, he's a got to be one of the top defensive minds in the NFL because the whole is greater than the parts with their cover two defense. Their zone shifts where they transfer the receiver to the other guy. They're just so in unison. And one of the reasons that it is that way is because they've been somewhat healthy all year. I wouldn't be surprised if they have problems with AJ Brown even because of the inability to stop Derrick Henry. With
Yeah.
with Derrick Henry gaining yardage, it's going to pull so much attention that they don't want to pull from those zones that they want to use to defend AJ Brown, to defend Jonnu Smith. I think Tannehill's going to pick them apart, man.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a much better spot for Tannehill than he had a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
with all the Colts guys missing. This game is up too in terms of the total. It's up 2 points. Vegas opened it at 49.5. It's up to 51.5 now too. Colts are playing faster. They're throwing more too. Phillip Rivers is throwing way, way more as of late. This game could shoot out, especially if the Titans control the pace of this game because they're really quick offensively. But if Rivers has to chuck it, this game is pretty tight. Rivers has 35 or more attempts in 4 of his last 5 games. He was basically a game manager to start the season. I think Frank Reich just kind of got him going slowly. But Scott, Michael Pittman is way too cheap, and he has established himself as the Colts' #1 wide receiver. What are your thoughts on Pittman this week?
Yeah, I mean, you just know I love Pittman. It's a great spot. This is a guy we talked about all
This is a
off
fantasy
season
points favorite, man. It's good. It's good to see Pittman out there balling because all of us were all over him.
Yeah, I remember doing the post-draft press conference review piece, and it was just so apparent how in love they were with this guy, the comps they were throwing around. You know, I even went all the way and watched an interview with the area scout who would attend the practices, and he was just like, I know this sounds crazy, but it's totally true. I've watched maybe 3 dozen practices, and I've never seen him lose a one-on-one rep in practice. I know that sounds crazy, and it's just like, whoa. And yeah, so they were just drooling all over him, and he's looked dominant. So he's a good value.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
5K. I think he's going to be among the top 5 wide receivers in ownership on the slate. But he is such a strong play.
absolutely. If you go back to his film at USC, it's the same thing. He's a guy that does a lot of his work after the catch. He was nasty in that air raid for Caden Slovis last year. He was the kind of guy that he could just snap and throw to the sideline, and Pittman would just abuse the guy that was trying to man up on him. So we're going to see a lot of man coverage on Michael Pittman on Sunday. It's playing right into his strengths, but we saw just last week that Pittman can do well against the zone too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, all three of his catches last week were on shallow crossers, and they were just trying to get the ball in his hands because, like you mentioned, they want to take advantage of that yak ability. This week, it's an even better matchup. So
yeah, that's
yeah,
why Hilton's had such
love
a
that.
hard time with playing with Rivers. Is Rivers? He's the kind of guy. He sets up his wide receivers on short crossers or on screens to the sideline, or just the lower number route tree. He's not the kind of guy that's going to throw deep throughout a game, and that's kind of what Hilton wants, but he's not going to get it.
Yeah, Hilton's just been completely dead
Yeah.
for fantasy, man. Really, the only other decision I guess we have to make in this game is what to do with the Colts running backs. Jonathan Taylor finally uh, got a big boost in snaps and carries last week, but I just don't trust Frank Reich to do that again. It really just seems, excuse me, it really just seems like it's just totally week to week with these guys. I don't really have a strong opinion either way. Scott, do you have a take at all on the Colts backfield?
So Costco, your boy Wes, PFF analyst, we were debating Jonathan Taylor for a bit, and he was like, honestly, I wasn't that high on him coming out. I was super high on him coming out. And he hasn't looked great on tape, but last week was very encouraging to me. I'd rather hear Wes's takes on what you think is going on with Taylor. Can he bounce back from it? And yet, why does he look not like the phenom we thought he was going to be?
It's too early to pass too much judgment on him. For one, there that the entire team is getting used to a new quarterback. So everyone is kind of adjusting, and then you throw in a new running back as well with Marlon Mack going down so early. So Taylor was just kind of thrown into the fire. The thing about what I remember, just very very well from last season, was he played against Ohio State in 2 games. The first game they played, they were destroyed. I mean, embarrassed and on every level of the field. And then they played again later in the season, and one of the very first plays of the game, he busted off a 50 or 60-yard run for a touchdown where he abused a few of their defenders, and he played really well in that game. So when he went out with, I think, a minor ankle injury a few games ago. Was that in the Tennessee game where he was banged up? I think the first matchup.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I guess it was 3 weeks ago now. Yeah, he played a season low in snaps. It might have
Yeah.
been because of an injury. He was dealing with an ankle injury coming out of their bye, though. So
But I'm not convinced that's exactly what it was. I think they were unhappy with how he was playing, and
same
and
here.
and they took him out, and they even they were tossing shade out saying that Naheem Hines was going to be their new number one last week.
Yeah,
So what I've seen from Taylor over, in the time that I've seen him, is he's the kind of guy that plays really well with a chip on his shoulder, because I mean he's got some top end speed. He's somebody that has every right to be in the NFL. I just think he needs the proper motivation, and that's what they're trying to do with him.
yeah.
So I think we've yet to see the best of Taylor.
Yeah, I think they benched him coming out of their bye. So they came out of the bye, played the Lions. He looked terrible, like super tentative behind the line of scrimmage. They gave Jordan Wilkins the carries to kind of salt that game away. They gave him a bunch of carries against the Ravens early in that first quarter. Then he fumbled and only got like 1 or 2 touches. And then there was the short week against the Titans that he got the season low in carries. Finally had a big outbreak last week. I don't know though. They're going to play Hines. They'll play Wilkins some.
Yeah.
It's really thin.
Nobody's going to want to hear this, but I think what would be best for Taylor is to remove his receiving volume. because I think it plays away from his strength. I think he needs to focus on hitting the pile hard, or running at defenders like and just punishing guys that try to tackle him. And I think when he's trying to play a finesse game with the receiving game, I'd like to see him take it away at least for a little bit and see what he can do as a pure rushing threat.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think Taylor's been better as a receiver than most people expected. He basically just ran 2 steps and turned around at Wisconsin. That was the extent of his route tree. But
Well, he had a big problem with drops. I'm talking, I think
yeah,
he had, like a third of the targets to him he dropped. So
yeah,
it's good to see him catch those passes.
yeah,
I just want to see him acclimate to the NFL first.
yeah. All right, guys, we can breeze through this next game. Browns, Jags. The Jags are going to go to everybody's favorite giraffe, Mike Glennon, this week. They're going to be without DJ Chark and Chris Conley. So he's going to be down his top 2 wide receivers. They'll play Laviska Shenault. They'll play Keenan Cole. And, we'll probably see Colin Johnson for the first time, rookie out of Texas. But I don't know. I think the Jags are pretty much a full fade. James Robinson's going to play every snap and get probably 17 to 18 carries. But Browns are probably going to roll in this game. Scott, the biggest decision, I think, to make in this game specifically is Nick Chubb at 7,100 versus Kareem Hunt at 56. Chubb has been better as of late. He's outscored Hunt in 4 straight games. But the big price decrease for Hunt at 5,600 is pretty interesting. What are your thoughts on the Browns' run game here, and who do you prefer out of those 2?
I do like James Robinson a lot, by the way. He's just like a full-on bell cow without Chris Thompson, and he's not really priced in line with.
Yeah, but the Jags literally might score. They might literally only score 3 points this week.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's definitely a concern. Chubb versus Hunt is tough. Wyatt Teller's back, which has really helped the run game. Nick Chubb, I think, is he the best pure runner in the NFL? He might be. It's either him or Derrick Henry, and we should view them similarly. Chubb seems locked into 22 carries. Could be a slate buster, but like you said, Kareem Hunt is really cheap. The spread is far more in Chubb's favor. They're 7-point favorites, but I mean, even the last 2 weeks, which were 2 wins, Kareem Hunt beat him out in XFP by a good margin. Those targets are important. Those targets are valuable. And Hunt was also in getting the goal line carries. So it's not clear to me that either one is a must play. I think Hunt is by far the better value, just looking at median projection versus price. I think Chubb is the one with slate busting upside, and they're just good plays. They're not in a great matchup. I don't know that they're must plays.
Definitely not must plays, but both of those guys have tournament winning upside potential. It's just going to basically come down to like how lucky are you feeling. But I am with you. I think Chubb has the slightly higher floor, maybe just by a very slight margin. But yeah, I mean, I think this game is really simple from a fantasy perspective. I think we'll see Chubb probably around 10 or 12% ownership, while Hunt will probably be at like 5 to 10 too. So I could sway some decisions. But let's move on here, guys. We are running behind. Panthers Vikings is next game up. Teddy Bridgewater looks like he's going to be back this week after missing 1 game with a knee injury. Christian McCaffrey will be out again. And unfortunately, Adam Thielen is on the COVID list. I don't think he's going to play. Actually need to look and see if there's an update on that, but probably won't get Thielen in this spot, which is going to further condense the Vikings offense to just Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. Thielen has seen like 28% of the team's targets since Jefferson took over as the starter back in week 3. Wes, I'll go to you first. Against the, pretty zone heavy Panthers defense, what's Jefferson's matchup looking like with probably no Thielen?
Well, the thing about Jefferson and Thielen is you can't really look at their target shares as clean decisions between the two, because they're both they play so specific to the coverages that they play well against, and of course when they're going up against man coverage, we can fire them both up. They may not get as many touches as we want, and that'll be the one thing to hold them back. But because they're going to feed Dalvin Cook if they can, and that'll just become their game plan. And that same applies here. But for Jefferson, he's the seventh ranked wide receiver over the last 2 years, qualified with let's see, 0.53 fantasy points per route against the cover three. And that's going to be what the Vikings are going to play mostly. And cover four he's not as doing as well. And the reason for that is because that's where Thielen does so well. Thielen and as we saw last week, and Cousins, they just kill cover four together, in addition to the man coverage. But there's some, and then another guy you didn't mention, I don't think you did. Irv Smith is also doubtful. So Rudolph is somebody that's going to come through. I haven't looked up his numbers against those defenses, but he's somebody who we can count on for decent volume at a position that we've not. He's actually been pretty good. He's 0.29 fantasy points per route against cover three. So and that's better than Irv Smith. So and he doesn't get the volume, so that's pretty impressive that he's at that spot.
Yeah. Good note on Irv, because Rudolph had 4 for 63 in the game that Irv missed a couple weeks ago. Kind of weird. I mean, Irv came back last week and played, missed 2 weeks ago through the groin injury. So yeah, we'll get Jefferson in a huge role. We'll get obviously Dalvin Cook in his normal role. We'll see Rudolph. He's only 2,800, so good call. Panthers have been bad against tight ends too. They've not been good against tight ends.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott. Really on the Panthers side, I don't really have a whole lot. I mean, Mike Davis is playing in the every down bell cow role, but his efficiency has really just kind of fallen off. And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on Anderson and Moore and Samuel in the spot here with Teddy Bridgewater back?
Yeah, I just think Teddy is somewhat interesting. Like, he's been on how many Millie winning lineups so far? It's more than a few, more than just two. No one ever wants to play him, but he's been, highly competent in the right spots, and this really does look like a right spot. Minnesota's defense isn't imposing. They don't really have a great pass rush on it. I mean, a great defensive mind coaching them, but just in terms of roster talent, isn't intimidating at all. Him and Robbie Anderson, who just continually is not priced right. I mean,
why can't Robbie Anderson score? What the fuck?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Why can't he score? I don't understand it.
I mean, he's due for a regression. You can just say that and wash your hands of it.
Yeah. I'm with you on Bridgewater. I just think there's a few better quarterback plays on this slate at a similar or lower price, but it's definitely a good spot. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would say that the one issue with Robbie Anderson, we look at what he did with the Jets, and when he would score on all those when he was scoring all those touchdowns, he was doing. Darnold was, he has a better arm than Bridgewater. He would air it out to Anderson, let him go downfield and make some plays, and Bridgewater just doesn't have that ability. He's not that type of quarterback, and it's really interesting because how earlier in the season, Scott, how we were talking about DJ Moore, and he just doesn't get those money targets, but it's actually been better for him playing with the noodle arm of Bridgewater. 4 touchdowns isn't something that you need to write a letter to your mother or anything, but that's good for him in 11 games. A
few of those have been on distant scores, but yeah. It's interesting to see, though. I mean, the Panthers' last 4 games, Anderson, again, leads them in targets with 36, but Curtis Samuel actually has 29 targets to Moore's 27. If you're going to play Panthers receivers, I think Samuel is my favorite, but it's all of these guys have, 10, 15 point, relatively 10, 15 point expectations with 25-point ceilings.
Samuel was a guy coming out of Ohio State that, in the right offense, playing under the right offensive coordinator, could look like a first-round pick. But unfortunately, until this season, he wasn't playing in a situation like that. They kept forcing the ball to him, and I know he had a lot of air yards, but he's not that type of guy. He's a run after the catch kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that staff last year completely misused him, man. They turned him into a deep threat, and this staff is basically using him perfectly. He plays in the backfield a little bit.
Yep.
Just gets the shallow targets.
And having Christian out, that's allowed him to take on more of that share. And I think when they get Christian back, knowing what he can do in that situation it's gonna be a great compliment to McCaffrey.
Yeah, for sure. Samuel this year has caught 85% of his targets. Last year's 51%, and that's all based on usage.
Plus, he's so good on third down. He's one of the top third down wide receivers in the league.
Yeah, love to see Curtis Samuel balling out. Okay, Cardinals Patriots next game up. Rex Burkhead is out for the season with a knee injury, so we'll probably see Sony Michel elevated this week. They made him a healthy scratch last week, so I'm not sure how much Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels are going to play Michel. Damian Harris has definitely earned the number one role, but we are going to see some Michel again this week on early downs. Cardinals, really the only note I have is Larry Fitzgerald has COVID. He is going to miss this game, so we're going to get a 3-receiver set this week of Nuke, Christian, Kirk, and Andy Isabella on the inside. Isabella's only $3K. Wes, what's your read on the matchup here? Because the price is just it's nice.
It's mouth-watering. Let's remember that Andy Isabella, where did he go to college? He went to Massachusetts. This is a homecoming for Isabella.
Oh, baby, we got to. I love the narrative.
Yeah, and it's not something that he's unaware of either. He's super excited for this matchup, and then to find out, hey, you're going to be playing, basically starter snaps. Just getting your opportunity that we'll probably see from him next year. And it couldn't be better because he's going up against the defense that will play the most top 3 man coverage snaps. And I know we don't have a ton of snaps. Let's see, we have 240 routes with Isabella. He averages 0.81 fantasy points per route against cover 1. That's better than Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen, Michael Thomas, Cooper Kupp. The only guy better, Justin Jefferson. I am all over. I don't think you can sit Isabella this week. It's just so mouthwatering, and especially when you look where's Stephon Gilmore gonna be? Yeah, he hasn't been the lockdown that he's been banged up a little bit, but he's still gonna be on Nuke. And you look at what Nuke has done in matchups with Gilmore, and he's been ghosting him over his career. So I love Isabella, and if you're gonna attack the Patriots, you do it from the slot
100%.
Or with a rushing quarterback, right?
Yeah, they're a slot funnel, man. They're 63% of their wide receiver production has come through the slot. That's the 3rd highest rate in the league, behind only the Vikings and the Rams. The Rams are a true slot funnel because Ramsey's playing so damn well. Yeah, I think Isabella's a really strong play. And Scott, like, you and I talk about this all the time on the stream. Patriots are very man heavy, and Kyler against this man heavy Patriots defense is like the things dreams are made of. Mobile quarterbacks facing the Patriots this year, they faced a bunch of them. Russell Wilson had 5 for 39. Patrick Mahomes had 8 carries for 28 yards. Josh Allen had 23 yards and a touchdown. Lamar had 11 for 55, and Deshaun had 36 yards and a touchdown. Last week, he got that touchdown, obviously, in a great scramble. But, man, like, Kyler is the best scrambling quarterback in the league. It's not even close. And now he gets this Patriots defense that's they're going to play a bunch of man. This is a great spot. And Murray, I think, is going to be maybe the lowest owned we've seen him this year.
Yeah, and he's still not priced like 2019 Lamar, even though he's out producing 2019 Lamar. He's putting up the most fantasy points per game by any quarterback ever through the first 11 weeks of the season. He was dealing with a shoulder injury. He's not in the injury report today.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
I do worry if it's compartment syndrome. That's something we've seen pop up all over the NFL this year, and players have tried to play through that. And it's more of a pain tolerance type thing, but it limits their mobility, and teams have held guys out because of that. So we'll see. I think it's his throwing shoulder. So that's the thing that concerns me the most. But we'll see. And I'm not a doctor. We've got guys that can, at fantasy points that can answer that better.
Yeah, it is his throwing shoulder, but definitely good to know that he's not on the injury report. I think
Yeah.
Kingsbury said he's fine too, so hopefully he's close to 100% because
I
this
think his
is.
legs are okay though.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, you know what? If his shoulder's banged up, man, like it actually might discourage him from taking more hits on that shoulder. But he does such a great job of limiting contact anyway. So
Oh yeah, it's that baseball player in him, man.
yeah,
He knows
dude,
how to get down and slide appropriately.
dude, he has the fastest moving legs of any human being in history. It's incredible. On the Patriots side, guys, I really don't have much. I mean, everybody died on Jacoby Myers chalk week hill last week. I think
Wes likes him.
yeah, I think he's a fine play. It's just, the Patriots just they keep spreading the ball around, man. It's kind of week to week with all these guys. But Wes, what's your read on Myers?
Well, this is a run first offense. They're gonna live and die with the run. But the thing about Myers is, I mean, really, he's a guy that I mean, like, where did this guy come from? He was basically an afterthought from there was some talk of him going in the first round from some draft analysts, and then he ended up, well, I think he was a 7th round pick or an undrafted free agent. I can't remember. It was nowhere near as high as we thought. But the thing that I do remember about him in college is he's a really good route runner. And that's how he's been able to gain Cam's trust. Now, of course, having Edelman out, that is opened up the opportunity. But I mean, look at his target shares. Of course, in a run first offense, the target shares are going to be a little inflated based off of the actual passing attempts. But still, I mean, he's getting a huge volume there, and that was a tough spot for him last week, going up against the Texans. I thought it was going to be Bradley Roby, ended up being Eric Murray, but it's still Justin Reed is a really good safety, and they were and no doubt in my mind looking to take him out of the passing game because they put Roby over on N'Keal Harry, and we know what you don't need Roby on N'Keal Harry, but that's because they were using Justin Reed to kind of bottle up Jacoby Myers. So it's really created a really good value for us this week because Jacoby Myers is actually a really good player against man coverage, and we know how vulnerable the Cardinals are vulnerable to the pass everywhere, but they've been vulnerable to the slot this season. I think he's going to have a good yardage game. He's not going to score any touchdowns because he's more of a route runner type Keenan Allen guy. Nowhere near that level, but he's gonna find ways to get open, and Cam's going to look for him. I think he'll be able to easily cover his floor and possibly give us a few extra points.
Wes, I think if you went out there and replaced N'Keal Harry, there would be no difference. that dude.
I don't know if you remember. You remember the Debbie League that you were in with me years and years ago, Graham?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
I drafted N'Keal out of high school thinking, there's little footage and everyone looks like a superstar in high school, unless you go up to the upper ranks. But yeah, I took him, and I was hoping he would be just a gold mine for me. And man, what a dud.
Dude, he disappointed everybody.
He cannot separate to save his life.
Yeah, I forgot about that Debbie League. I think I played in that for 2 years, and I was like, yeah, this is way too intense for me. I love Dynasty.
You were too busy. You were way too busy for that. I think you were doing me a favor joining. I no telling how many leagues you were already in.
Yeah, I wanted to try and get into the Debbie stuff, and just I couldn't.
Yeah,
couldn't do it.
Debbie stuff will always favor the college guys. So
yeah, for sure. RIP to N'Keal Harry. We'll pour one out for him, and we'll also pour one out for Joe Flacco. He's lost his air quotes starting job. Sam Darnold is back this week for the Jets, so maybe Jamison Crowder's not dead yet. We'll see. But yeah, Sam Darnold back this week. Only other note I have on the Jets is LaMichael Pirine is going to IR, so the never dead, never aging Frank Gore will be their every down back there. Who cares? But Dolphins.
It's a good spot.
It is a good spot. Yeah.
Horrible against the run. Look what they did. Look what Denver did to him last week.
It is a good spot.
He's topping as a top value per the supermodel.
And I'm playing him in a league that I'm not supposed to mention with Scott. I'm going to play him this week. As long as if Eckler's held out, I'm playing Gore. If not, I'm going to have to go with Eckler.
Yeah, man. I think Gore's fine in season long, but I don't think I can play him in DFS.
Yeah, I'm gonna
They
draw the
just
line there.
Yeah, he's fine in season long. I mean, he's gonna get 15 carries, but for DFS, man,
425. Watch. Who are they going to give him to? Ty Johnson?
Ty Johnson sucks.
I mean, he's fast, but he's not a bruiser. He's not going to be able
Yeah,
to take all those hits.
yeah.
Ty
I
can
just don't.
fly.
I
That's the thing that they said about him coming out of Maryland.
Yeah, I just don't think I can stomach playing Frank Gore in DFS. Dolphins side, their running back situation is really murky. Salvin Ahmed is going to miss this game with a shoulder injury. They might get Myles Gaskin back off IR, but we'll see about that. So if they don't have Ahmed and Gaskin, it'll be down to some sort of gross trio between Matt Breida, Patrick Laird, and DeAndre Washington. Really, the only guy I'm interested in here, Scott, is Devontae Parker on. The only guy I'm interested for the Dolphins this week is Devontae Parker in the spot. Jets are just terrible against receivers, specifically on the outside. And I hope I'm still hoping Ryan Fitzpatrick somehow plays, but it looks like Tua is going to be back. But regardless of who's back there, it's an awesome spot for Parker.
Yeah, so I actually wrote up yesterday to play Grant over Parker.
Interesting.
Tua's thrown the ball 97 times. On those 97 throws, Grant is only 2 targets and 6 yards off of Devontae Parker for the team high. And keep in mind, he wasn't a full-time player up until 2 weeks ago. So that was with him as a part-time player and still like basically neck and neck with Parker. But Jakeem Grant's questionable. So yeah. I don't know what to do here. Yeah, I guess it's just Parker, which I mean, like he makes the most sense on paper. He's the wide receiver 1.
Yeah, no, that's a good note on Parker, or not Parker, but Grant for sure. But yeah, the Dolphins are just super banged up, man. They just, I'm not crazy about playing Parker either with Tua. It'd be a lot better of a spot if it were Fitz, but yeah.
I would add the one guy on the Jets that have we already gone over the Jets? Did you just skim past them? Okay.
No, go ahead.
Then I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say that the one guy I am looking forward to seeing if Darnold is healthy, because he may not be the accurate passer that we thought he could possibly be after some of those performances at USC, but he does have a strong arm, and Perryman is a guy that we saw last year play with Winston and do really well, and with this I would compare the skill sets. Someone who can air it out, but not the greatest at reading zone coverages. And I would like to see Perryman, and Perryman has actually done pretty well with Flacco. I think it's kind of unfortunate that Flacco gets taken out while he's playing so well,
Yeah.
Or at least well from above what we would have expected,
Exactly. Yeah. I've been saying this for weeks that Flacco is better than Darnold, and he's way more aggressive. I mean, I know Darnold has the way better arm, but like Flacco's actually chucking it deep. Darnold is just like, he's not seeing the field. He hasn't seen the field well really at all in the NFL, but he's especially seems skittish this year. Scott, I think getting Darnold back will be big for Crowder. Last 2 years, Crowder's averaged 15 fantasy points per game in 15 games with Sam Darnold versus just 9.4 fantasy points per game in 7 games without him. I really don't love any of these Jets receivers at all, but I think Crowder probably has the best matchup out of these guys, right?
Let me see.
I mean, Perryman destroys Crowder against cover 1.
Yeah. So, I just meant the Dolphins have been a little bit easier to go through the slot, but
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
We're talking.
They're about even in both spots. The 15th most fantasy points per game to the slot, 14th most out wide. Yeah. I just trust Wes here on the coverage scheme.
I just worry about Xavier Howard. I think that he's starting to build a reputation that quarterbacks are looking at his film. They're seeing how good he's playing. And then, of course, you got their safeties were playing pretty well, too. Eric Rowe, which is a holdover, a guy that followed Flores over from New England. And so, it's really nice to see the Dolphins playing so well. And to kind of go back to Tua, the thing about Tua and Darnold that seem very similar is how they're hesitating with their progressions. They're not trusting their eyes, and I think that what that is them still trying to adjust to the speed of the NFL. Except for in Darnold's case, I think he's still trying to get over that. What was it, 5 or 6 interceptions against New England last year?
Yeah, you're seeing ghosts in that game.
Yeah, I don't think he's recovered from that completely. I've not seen him play. He had some good games prior to that, and since that game, it's like it killed his confidence. And I think I want to see Tua this week because I think it sent a message to him, and I want to see what he can do with the chip on his shoulder, because the Dolphins said the reason that they benched Fitzpatrick is because they want to know whether they need to draft another quarterback.
Yeah.
How does that reflect on somebody who they just took in the first round? He's going to take that personally, and I think he's going to come out being more aggressive this week. So I think Parker, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody comes out of nowhere that we haven't seen do much. And Mike Gesicki, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a few targets because he's actually done really well as a blocker, and I think they want to see him get rewarded for that work.
Yeah. Yeah, Tua is battling a thumb injury on his right hand, and then Scott for Grant, he has a hamstring injury, so we'll have to see on that. Seems legit questionable. He hasn't got a full practice in all week, so no Jakeem.
So if
Grant
it's his thumb on his non-throwing hand, I mean,
yeah, it's his non-throwing hand.
It might be just like either he plays or it's like they're really looking for an excuse to get Fitzpatrick back in there.
God, yeah, Fitz, man, I love Fitzpatrick.
I do too.
And then you just play Parker.
Yeah, if Fitz plays, man, Parker's the nuts this week, and then especially if Grant misses.
How much is Fitzpatrick?
What's that, Scott?
How much is Fitzpatrick?
5,500.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, let's see. No, never mind. Carr is only 200 more. But I mean, Jets are like the ultimate spot. They're, they have a bottom 3 pass defense, but a top 6 rush defense. So
Justin Herbert went full ham last week. Like that, he did whatever the fuck he wanted to do. It was like Mahomes a couple of weeks ago. That's what it reminded me of. He just did whatever the hell he wanted to.
That's what I wrote up last week.
Yeah,
he was going to do.
But they put their guys on the good defensive backs that they still had back there on IR.
Yeah,
Austin and Poole. So
yeah, Fitz.
I thought Bless Austin was out last week.
Yeah, that's what I said. They put him on IR, so they just had nothing for
they still have nothing, right? They're starting backups at every position.
Yeah, like Lamar Jackson will be playing on the right side. I mean,
the other Lamar Jackson.
The other Lamar Jackson. It's not a good look for him, man. It's they're in a bad spot, but I think we can start to chalk a little bit of that up to them tanking for the number 1 pick. The other 2 guys they started last week were Arthur Mallett, and Bryce Hall.
Yeah.
I don't even know much about those guys. So
well, there's nothing that says 0-16 more than Adam Gase. We know that. All right, guys, 4:00 games. Let's get going through this. Finish strong here. 3 games left. Saints Broncos is the first game up. Broncos had to cancel practice today because a player, or I'm not sure if it was a player or coach, tested positive for COVID. So they didn't practice today. But Jerry Jeudy did not practice when they did practice on Thanksgiving. He is banged up with a lot of different injuries, and he's also dealing with the ball and chain of Drew Lock. Man, I don't. There's really nobody on the Broncos side I want to play. Running backs are splitting touches. Gordon's getting all the receiving stuff. It's just, yeah, it's pretty gross. I think Broncos are full fade. 17 and a half implied total, I think, is the lowest on the slate too. You're not playing Broncos. Wes, let's go to you first, man. What did you see from Taysom last week? Because I kind of thought in terms of just like rhythm and timing, like he looked like 80% of Drew Brees, which is kind of crazy to say.
It is, but then again, he's been working under Breeze, and Breeze is essentially his mentor, and just from watching him on the Bear Grylls show, the where he walks him through all that stuff. I mean, he seems like a pretty open kind of guy, somebody that isn't going to hold back tips and tricks and things like that. I would not be surprised if the 3 years or 2+ years that he's been working with Breeze, if he is like essentially an NFL quarterback that's 40 years old at the age of 30. So we may see a monumental breakthrough that nobody was expecting from Taysom Hill, somebody who, I mean, there's never been a quarterback block a punt in the NFL history. Yeah, here's what we got. This guy is super athletic. What I saw though this past week was somebody that's not afraid to throw the ball downfield,
Yeah.
and at the same time he works through his progressions, and he knows one of Scott's terms, he knows where his bread is buttered with Michael Thomas, and gosh, I'm so glad that somebody finally got the ball to Thomas, because man, he looked good last week. I know he did drop one big pass and that was unfortunate, but man, those two looked so good last week. Of course, it was against the Falcons, but I mean, for a guy with 20 passing attempts in his career, I mean, you tell me that he did not look like somebody who is an NFL veteran.
Oh yeah.
So, and plus, of course, what he's able to do with his legs is something that maybe 5 other quarterbacks in the NFL can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was, it's funny because we've all been bitching and lamenting about Taysom Hill in fantasy for years because he's been stealing touchdowns and just being like generally annoying. But like, if he didn't have that stigma about him, I think people would be way crazier about him because he was that good last week. Again, it's against the Falcons. Broncos defense is definitely tougher because they have like actual NFL caliber corners. But yeah, I think Taysom's in play again. Obviously big price increase from 4,800 to 6,200. But like you mentioned, obviously we're playing him for the rushing upside, and he has plenty of it. Michael Thomas is only 7,400. And if he's going to be back in that normal, like massive target share role, he got 50% of the team's targets last week.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. And if he's back in that type of just huge hammer role, Thomas is underpriced by at least 1K. Obviously no Breeze is a little bit of a little bit lower in expectation, but still Michael Thomas, 7,400. Great price. I think Kamara Scott is a full fade at this point. He's played 60 career games. Last week was his first game ever with no receptions. Hill is, as we've seen with scrambling quarterbacks, and you and I've talked about this before, is like, scrambling quarterbacks just don't dump the ball off. People complain about Deshaun Watson not throwing it to Duke Johnson. It's like, yeah, he does that because he can scramble so well. And Hill is just as good, or if not better, of a runner than Watson. So really, I think in this game, it's Taysom and Thomas and not much else.
Yeah, I mean, the contrarian boys are going to be like, they're 6-point favorites and no one wants to play Alvin Kamara. We're going to get Alvin Kamara at 4% ownership because these donkeys have recency bias. It's Alvin freaking Kamara. Yep. I mean, it's all true. But, just on paper, in terms of, is he a good play or not? He's not a better play than Derrick Henry. He's not a better play than Dalvin Cook. I love the idea of some Taysom plus Michael Thomas stack. So last week I rolled out Justin Herbert plus Keenan Allen plus Deontay as my main. And then I got weird on some 3-entry max lineups where I did some Ben Roethlisberger dub stacks. It didn't work out. But this week, I think that's Taysom Hill plus Michael Thomas. And I think Michael Thomas is a good play in his own right. Wes just said it. Thomas accounted for 50% of Taysom Hill's completions last week, 45% of his passing yards. Wes said in his article, Kevin Burkhardt passed along that he asked Taysom Hill if he had any special connections with the receivers, and his response was, no, I just want to get the ball to 13. And
smart man.
Yeah, he ranked 6th in PFF pass grade last week. He ranked 5th in PFF pass grade in the 2019 preseason. He ranked 1st in fantasy points per dropback last week. He averages a Patrick Mahomes level fantasy points per dropback in the preseason when playing at quarterback. So I think he's, not an amazing play, but I think he's one of those better factor in ownership, swing for the fences type of plays.
I want to add the one other receiver that looks really good with Taysom was Emmanuel Sanders. He was the guy. He was actually the downfield threat for Taysom on a few of his throws.
Yeah, and he had a touchdown called back on a kind of sketchy penalty too.
Yeah. So he could have had a big day, and we'd be talking about Taysom as, hey, it's the next Justin Herbert, and so just a game of inches. And going up against the zone of Denver, they're going to play some man, of course, but they play a cover six from a base package sometimes, and a guy that is going to be just really valuable there for Taysom is Emmanuel Sanders. So we might see him do, I mean, another 60 yards, maybe a touchdown.
Yeah. Hill obviously just has so much better of an arm at this point than Breeze. I mean, Breeze just, his arm's been falling off for years now, and this year it's looked even worse. He's really not stretched the field hardly at all. Scott, I think you're right, like in the sense that you can play a Saints running back in what should be a very run heavy game script for the Saints, but Latavius Murray is only $5K on FanDuel. So if you want to get potentially a little freaky, you can get to Murray on FanDuel. He's not really in play on DraftKings. He's way overpriced at $5,900. But Murray had one more carry than Kamara last week, and if they're going to go back to a kind of a similar run-heavy game plan with Hill, which they should, especially given this game script, I think Murray makes some sense on FanDuel as a guy that can get 10, 12 carries and get into the box. Okay, let's keep it moving here. 49ers Rams. Looks like they're going to get Raheem Mostert and Deebo Samuel back. I think Kyle Shanahan just came out and said like 30 minutes ago that they're going to get Deebo back. He's actually not listed on the injury report. So we're going to see him back, which kind of kills the steam out of what's been a great run for Brandon Ayuk. But really, guys, I mean, I'm not really too excited to play anybody on the Niners, Scott. What's your take here on the Niners and with Deebo back and Ayuk?
Yeah, I actually have nothing. Jordan Reed at like a near minimum price tag is somewhat interesting off of the bye.
I wish you were a little bit cheaper, Reed, just a little.
Yeah, I get that, but yeah, I get it. But I mean, he was a part-time player. He saw 6 targets, 60 yards last week or last game. I think Raheem Mostert's kind of interesting. I don't know what his price is actually, but when it was looking like he might suit up, I like wrote him up every week as a contrarian play, and he just never played.
Yeah.
If you look at his like per 4 quarters numbers.
Yeah, he's 5,600. And it's not terrible, but
71, I think,
swing
on
for the
FanDuel.
fences contrarian play.
Yeah, man, he's been awesome when we've seen him. He's been like the fastest player in the NFL this year.
Cooper Kupp is a value on DraftKings and Woods is a value on FanDuel, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. But Kupp has like what, 30 targets in his last 2 games?
Yeah, so I think you might have those flip because Woods is only 5,800 on DK.
I'm sorry. Like whatever it is what it is. But he has 40 targets over his last 3 games, Cooper Kupp.
And that Woods and Kupp boom game was so hot. That was such a fun showdown slate. I will say the Rams are finally throwing more. They started the season like just so boring on offense. They were the 3rd most run heavy team on early downs in the first 5 weeks. They've switched that. They went 56% run heavy on early downs in the first 5 games. Now they're back to 56% pass heavy on early downs for the last 5. And obviously that's really helped Goff's volume. He's averaging 44 pass attempts per game versus 32 in their first 5. So I don't know. I think there's just better stacks on the slate. This is actually a really good quarterback slate. Just in general. I mean, we obviously have Mahomes, we've got Murray, we got Herbert, the God. We just talked Hill, but I think Goff has a chance to kind of keep it hot a little bit here because the Niners secondary West has been really bad. And it's obviously just because of injuries, but they've really been pretty bad.
Yeah, they have been, and a lot of it isn't their fault, but just the loss, even beyond the secondary, the loss of Joey Bosa really can't be expressed in a quick sentence. It's something that you can't replace, and with moving DeForest Buckner, I mean, this defense is nothing like it was last season. And then, they have a shutdown corner over there to complement Jason Barrett, who's having a monster year. And then we've got Warner at linebacker, but without Richard Sherman in there, and then Kwan Williams is out, and it's just not the defense that they were hoping for. I have a colleague, a former colleague, Bobby Slowick. He's actually the quality control for the defense of the 49ers, and he's the guy who was my first coverage mentor before Costco took over. Man, this guy, he could read coverages. He could look at, so when you're watching a game and from broadcast, it's really hard to see what coverage it is because you can't see the safety. A lot of times they won't move that camera out, and because they're really trying to get the quarterback as the focus, and I get that for the ratings, but for guys who want to know what coverages are out there, you want to see those safeties so you know what the defense is trying to do. Man, Bobby could read a coverage without safeties. It was unbelievable. But yeah, I bet they're playing for next year. I seriously think that, because there's no way they can do what they want to do with these guys. And but I do think Ayuk is still the better play of the two if you're going to play a 49er, because Ramsey's going to be all over Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
And he may get 40 yards or so, but it's going to be dirty yardage, and he's not going to get into the end zone. I mean, Evans got into the end zone last week, but guess what? It wasn't in Ramsey's coverage.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen for Deebo. This is a bad week to come back, but he wants to play. He's a competitor. I get that.
Yeah, bad week to come back, and also they're probably going to limit him off of what's now his second major injury of the year. He missed a bunch of time with that foot injury earlier this year, and obviously his hamstring injury was worse than they thought. So yeah, Debo's not going to play.
But Debo's a baller. Don't get me wrong.
Debo's awesome, man. I love Deebo Samuel. Okay, final game of the week here, guys. Let's finish this thing out strong. Chiefs Bucks. It's also maybe the best game on the slate. There's just a whole lot of options. Really, guys, I mean, the Chiefs are really simple every single week, especially with Sammy Watkins out again. He practiced in full, but I think I saw where he's going to miss this game again. So we'll be back to sweating Nicole Harbin donuts and all that fun stuff. But really, it's Mahomes, it's Hill and Kelsey. If you want to go that route. Actually, Sammy Watkins will play, so they're going to get Watkins back. But yeah, really, Chiefs are simple, man. Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey. Scott, I want to go to you. Brady this week. I am writing him up in contrarian plays because, one, everybody's going to have the bad taste of the Monday night shit fest against the Rams still in their mouth. Two, the Chiefs are going to probably dominate the game script here, forcing Brady to the air. And the Bucs have been super, super pass heavy when trailing. And three, I mean, he's got his guy Antonio Brown. I mean, they're going to probably lean even more on the pass this week. And Godwin, Brown, and Evans are still too cheap. So are you on Brady double stacks this week?
Yeah, this is a better question for Wes Huber because my answer is basically just I don't know. So from weeks 3 through 8, Brady was arguably the number one quarterback in football, not in fantasy, but just overall impressiveness. And then week 9, the wheels fell off. It was maybe his worst game ever against the Saints. Week 10, he smashed, but we knew he would smash against the Panthers West because he smashes cover 3 defenses. That's a heavy cover 3 defense. And he still left a lot of plays on the field. I thought he was missing throws. The stat sheet looked great, but missed a lot of throws. Things fell apart against the Rams last week in dramatic fashion. He's 0 for 19 on throws 20 yards or more in the air over the past month. Is this a 43-year-old quarterback with the wheels falling off in the second half of a season, something we've seen from him before? Or was this just 2 bad games and, he's entitled to 2 bad games in a 12-game sample, and, Kansas City is going to be a softer matchup than last week? I don't know. Wes, what are your thoughts on tape?
I think it's being blown out of proportion, that his deep targets, 0 for 20. I mean, it's a stat that is definitely gonna pull in some attention, but we're talking about those deep targets extending back to the Carolina game. He did miss a bunch of throws, but he came through. They destroyed Carolina. I would love to have seen him connect on those passes. We were talking during on Twitter during that game. He there were at least he could have thrown for 6 touchdowns that game if he was accurate, and I think those are things that he can correct. And then he's going up against the Rams the following week, which is about as bad of a stylistic matchup to his abilities as it could get. He's the worst in by a big margin against secondaries that drop more than 3 defenders deep, and that's what he got from the Rams. He got cover 4 and cover 6 in base packages. That's why you saw him misreading coverages, because he's not comfortable with those. He wants to attack man coverage and cover 3 with one safety back there, and I'm not worried about him throwing deep. I'm worried about him attacking what the defense gives him, and we've seen over his career that Brady's one of the best at that, as long as a team doesn't scheme up to his weaknesses.
Yeah, I love Brady in the spot, man. I think he's going to get there on volume, and we've seen some big games from Brady based on his volume. I wrote this game up for contrarian plays earlier today. But Brady has scored 34.5 DK points on 46 attempts in week 5 versus the Chargers. He put up 39.9 on 49 attempts in week 8 versus the Raiders. And he had 34.8 on 39 attempts 2 weeks ago against the Panthers. If they're going to be trailing in this game, we've seen Brady put up some tournament winning scores, and obviously his pass catchers are not super clear on who's going to have the best game, but I think that's why all of them make good tournament plays, right? I mean, when people don't know who to play, they just kind of tend to shy away from it. And on DraftKings, at least, AB, Godwin, and Evans are all similarly priced. So I think we'll probably see people just avoid the decision altogether, or just play their favorite one. And all of them are probably going to be way under-owned relative to their upside.
Evans is likely to get not a lot. He's going to shadow, but he's going to play a lot of snaps across from Breland, and so I think he has the least enticing matchup. But I think Godwin and Brown are going to be just fine, and even Gronk. I think Gronk will be fine. They're targeting him deep. They're targeting him short. He's actually been a pretty bright spot for the tight end position this season.
Yeah, I like Godwin, I think, the most out of all of them, just by like a hair, than AB, than Evans. Godwin has the higher floor out of all these guys. He has 5 or more catches in 6 of 7 games. But man, Brady loves throwing to his guy, AB. Bucks also probably aren't going to run the ball too much in this game too. So,
Man, they need a running back.
God. I think Ronald Jones is way better than Leonard Fournette. They just can't play Ronald Jones on passing downs because that dude's hands are like literally made of bricks.
Well, and he's not the best in pass protection either.
No.
And that's why I think they would be fine with the drops if he could protect Brady, and that's what they're getting from Fournette. It may not be pretty. It looks, actually it's very ugly, but he's able to protect Brady at least get a chip shot on free pass rushers. So that's why they're playing Fournette so much. And then look at Fournette's he's got some stone hands himself. So it's not a good combination. I think they were kind of hard on Keyshawn Vaughn, where he fumbled one time, and I think they took him out, and that was it. I would like to see him play a little bit, especially since they're likely to get into the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe Jones and Fournette get hurt. So I'd like to see him get some experience. And he's not a terrible pass protector. So it's their decision.
I'd like to see some Keyshawn Vaughn too, because I never thought I would say Leonard Fournette was going to play in the James White role. That's still crazy to me. But guys, Wes, this was awesome, man. You absolutely crushed it. Thank you so much for coming and hang out with us. We talked for an hour and 45 minutes. Just great shit. Scott, any final thoughts on this slate here before we get out of here?
No, I'm just going to black out. This is just Thanksgiving week is the stone worst. The end.
Yeah, man, I'm going to sleep like 14 hours tomorrow probably. But all right,
Scott,
guys.
you get better, man. I hope you feel better, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody's sick, dude. Everybody's sick. Go get another one of those IVs down the street, man.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'll have to do.
Or buy a shit ton of Pedialyte or something.
Right.
And
All right,
stay off those cigarettes, man.
Yeah.
It's the jewels. The jewels will get
All
you.
All right. Well, my mom might be listening, so you just threw me under the bus. But
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm so
It's okay. It's good TV.
It came from a good place. I meant
I
it.
I know it.
We're just looking out for you, dude.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this was awesome. For Scott, for Wes, for the man behind the glass, the voice of God, Ben Kukanis, who makes us look and sound awesome. I'm Graham. Thanks for listening. And real quick, if you're still listening, go check out the this podcast will be up on the premium podcast side. And you can listen to Cosell and John and Kaplan already for their Matchup Sports Show. They did it on Wednesday. Thanks for listening, guys.